Hey, this is Dan. This is the Video Game Collecting Podcast. Hey, this is Dan with the Video Game Collecting Podcast. Today's episode, we're just going to do a chat. We're going to have a conversation because this week's a little bit different. We had that big video. What big video? Well, that YouTube video. And it's called Exposing Fraud and Deception in the Retro Video Game Market. Yeah, some people are like, I'm turning this off. I've heard enough of that this week. And I don't blame you. You know, that's okay. You know, it's been a conversation that it's been had over and over. And honestly, I was almost preferring not to do this episode because it would be easier for me. You know, I've talked on Clubhouse, Instagram, Facebook, and been very honest about it, you know, and it's sometimes unpopular about my opinion. But with that said, you know, I think having an open mind and having conversations is always good. I didn't want anyone to think I was not talking about this and stuff. And I felt if I didn't do an episode talking a bit about this, that it would be wrong. You know, I just think, you know, there's some stuff that has to be talked about. Not that my opinion's all that special, but I do think it matters that we have a conversation, you know, and it's more, my thing about talking about this is more about having that conversation, not here about my personal opinions, but in the community. Like, I think what's happening, I've seen is like some people just want to say, no, it's fucking wrong. Like, all of it's fucking stupid and wrong. I'm like, no. Like, ease up there. Like, you know what? I'd say 95%, in my opinion, is connecting dots that don't connect. And I think there is some truth between some lines there. There is some questions that should be asked. And that's okay. You know, it's okay if you don't agree with me. You're listening to me like, no, Dan's being stupid. But, you know, I think you got to keep an open mind, you know, and I think it's not that you have to agree what happened or what's happening. It's that you have to understand other people's opinions and perspective. And say someone's new to the hobby, it looks really bad. It does. And, you know, the other part of this is some people want to just go, no, it's all people that don't collect sealed video games, have no interest in collecting sealed video games. That's not true. I'm sorry. You know, I've had people reach out to me multiple times in the last week asking for my opinion, wanted to talk about it, and there are people that were literally last week asking, hey, you know, I'm looking at video games to maybe get into the hobby, and we talked about it, and this week like, hey, what do you think? And I asked what they think, and they're like, you know what, I got to stay on the sideline, and I don't disagree with them. And these are not people that are looking for a fight, you know, these are not people that are confrontational. They're just genuine fans and collectors that, you know, see this and they don't know what to think. And I think, you know, listening to them, I think listening sometimes is not easy. You know, you got to understand perspective. And I think it's important. And I will say, like, there's definite questions from this video that I think are legitimate questions. I mean, at least there's a conversation about. And to dismiss everything, I think, would be wrong. And, you know, I just hope, you know, there's some conversations that lead to some positive from this. Now, on some other news, I'll touch back to that in a sec, but other news, Matt McKellen got hired at CGC Games. He is, as far as I know, the head grader over there. And yeah, he's going to be, you know, starting up the games over there as far as I know. And I'm really excited for that because, I mean, every interaction I've had with Matt has been a positive one. And it's great to see other members of our community start getting career jobs in this hobby, which is so awesome that, you know, they get to work on games all day long, which is a very big positive. Congratulations, Matt. I doubt you're listening, but congratulations to you. The video just keeps on popping in my head, but I feel guilty about it. But it's not that I don't want to talk about the video. I just like to have one-on-one conversations about it because there's so much to say and I don't want to talk for 2 hours, go over the video, watch it, you know, have opinions about it, but, you know, feel free. We jump on Clubhouse almost daily about it, and feel free to have a conversation. You know, it's okay to have different opinions on stuff. It's okay. People don't have to agree with you. Usually the people you argue with are the people you care the most about, right? So, you know, I think with what's happened, it's watching this video, has, shine a light on our hobby, the good and the bad. So I think it's a good conversation to have. And I'm hoping that at the end of the day, it's a positive going forward, that optics sometimes will be taken into consideration, and how stuff looks. And, once this hobby started going to multi-million-dollar games, this was going to happen. I got in debates last week about this, and, I don't want to go too far into that, but my opinion was, hey, I don't think grading companies should be too close to marketplaces. And I think I admire someone like VGA for their stance of kind of, hey, we grade games, we stay separate. And it's fine if you think different than that, but that's my opinion, and I kind of feel like grading companies should be held on a pedestal, because their companies often are built off reputation, right? So I think it's important. So I hope you enjoyed this short episode. I didn't want to get too much in the thick of it because, hopefully we're all having conversations about this. And I look forward to continuing this conversation. I'm not running from the conversation whatsoever. I just didn't want to really go on about my opinion about anything. That's why I love doing interviews with people, to have their opinions on here, because, I find having a conversation and getting perspective is really important, and really listening. Listening is really important. And that's my biggest advice about all this, is listen to other people. Listen to what they think and why they think that. Because they have a reason. They're not just crazy, and, it's best to understand where they're coming from. I'll leave with this one last story that I think is a positive, why listening and having an open mind are important. Is last week, I think it's Thursday or Friday, I saw that there's a game on Comic Connect that was going to be for sale. And it was the Hagen Super Nintendo. It was graded by a new grading company, and I've never used them, P1 grading. And I texted Jeff. I'm just like, hey man, I gotta be straight with you. And this is me being unpopular me, because I put my nose sometimes, just because I get into these things where most people would avoid them, but I believe in, if I believe in something, I say it if I think it's best for them. So I text Jeff. I'm like, hey, I don't think this game's optics are going to be great for you or the grading company. Now, let me be clear. I don't have anything going for sale on Comic Connect. I wasn't planning to buy anything. I have no interest for my own. Besides, hey, I saw this. I didn't agree. I don't think it was within a grade or two what I would agree with that game. And I thought about, I told him, we ended up talking on the phone after the weekend. And, the greatest thing was Jeff listened. Jeff listened, and we had different opinions at first, right? And we didn't have to get heated up. We just listened to each other. And I'm like, you know what? At that point, I kind of felt like, if they go for it, I understand. I might not agree, but I understand. Well, Jeff listened to me and a few others and talked to the grading company, and I found out right before this that, hey, you know what? They ended up pulling the game to reevaluate. Now that meant so much to me, because, it wasn't because they listened to me, and I know other people talked to Jeff about this. So, and it meant a lot because they listened to the community. They listened to, hey, you know what? This is our opinion. And, and sometimes people just go, no, we're not listening. We know best. And I think that's a mistake, and that's a tragic mistake, because it was amazing that, hey, they listened, and it wasn't an easy thing to do, and I really applaud both companies there to, listen to the community and react to it. And, I'm not saying they have to be pressured into anything. You know what? Maybe at the end of the day, they grade it the same. I don't know. But just to take the conversation seriously and not just be like, hey, we know best, that meant so much. And I hope that's a great lesson about this whole YouTube video and everything else, is to have conversations and to look to how do we do best by each other, right? And, look out for each other's best interest, and that's important for me. When I write to Jeff about something like that, I'm not like, oh, I'm going to bid on this game. It's not that I want to buy it. I'm not selling it. I'm just like, hey man, I told him, I don't agree with this, and I think it'd be best for you, and it's something you should consider. And Jeff had an open mind. And we at first did not agree on about it, and that's fine. Like, that is okay. And that to me means everything, that Jeff would listen to me. And that to me is how we all should be about listening to each other, and I understood what Jeff's counterpoints were. And that was awesome. And I hope he doesn't get mad for me talking about the conversation we had. But I find it important because it relates perfectly to the conversations we're having about that YouTube video. Again, like, it's not that you have to agree with it, but try to listen to other people's opinions and see, like, okay, where can you find common agreements? Like, hey, you know what? I agree with you there. Don't look for the parts where you just disagree. I mean, it's fine to disagree, but it doesn't have to be a fight. It could be a conversation. It could be a good, productive conversation. That's what I think. Luckily, a lot of people in the community, I've had a lot of really good conversations, and I think we all have more in common than separates us. So I hope you guys have good conversations with other members of the community, and positive. That's the thing, is like, where can we find the positive? Really push for that. So thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it, and I think, as always, the most important thing, enjoy the hunt.